So we're going to begin. I just want to say welcome everybody to our presentation or webinar today on how to streamline your purchase order and requisition within Cetinia, also known as known as Financial Force. My name is Jason Liu. I'll be your speaker for today. I am currently a solution consultant here at AbbeyPro. I'll be happy to walk you along through our presentation today. And if you have any questions, please do hold them until the end of our session where we'll be taking them out. Okay. All right. Let's dive in. Let's take a look at the agenda for today. We're going to be learning the importance of the spend management. There are many names within this module. It's also known as OPI, SEM, spend management. If I refer to any of those items, just to let you know, they all mean the same module there, okay? So we'll be learning the requisition, purchase order, payables, and ultimately how to create a requisition and what is a requisition in Cetinia, different type of requisition lines, what are purchase orders, purchase order line, understanding the receipt order within the Cetinia, understanding the purchase order journals for the accounting side of things as well, and the roles of the accountant in the accounts payable and the AP voucher that we're going to be touching on today. All right. So let's move on now and kind of review these three pillars here. So requisition. In our termination here is to procure or to source an item or a service that you desire. So meaning this item, the service is currently not in your inventory. It could be, and you're just trying to reach out to different vendors to get the best price you guys can get for this item, to procure for your project or for your services that you're trying to complete for your clients. Okay. There are steps within the requisition that we'll go over into the system momentarily that I would like to show you on the approval process and how to create a proper requisition within Cetinia here. Moving on from the requisition, we create a purchase order. So once the requisition is approved, you guys source your materials or your items from your chosen vendors. Then it goes into the purchase order process where you would be sending the PO to. So you'll be sending this to your supplier site and the agreed upon price. And of course, if there's a drop ship location, there are different various types of line items that we can choose from within purchase order that may cater to your business needs that we'll also kind of touch upon on, okay? We do have a calculation for freight taxes at the time PO, but however, if you weren't able to catch those things on it or there's changes, there's also the payable side or the AP voucher side where we can add those line items in, okay? So let's go on to the third pillar here where it says payables. So we have, I guess, an AP voucher system which kind of marked match, meaning what you order is matching with what is invoice, kind of making the two relate one-to-one before you push into your accounts payable, okay? It's a great step in this process to kind of cross-check and, of course, capture any price variance. So meaning if you get an item on your purchase order originally for $100, but then the invoice comes out to $105, apparently there was some uptick or some additional costs that was, associated, and that was agreed on the invoice, but not at the time of the purchase order for those adjustments. So we'll look at where that is placed in our module today, okay? All right, let's move on to requisition. As I mentioned, what is a requisition? A requisition is a formal request for procuring an item or service, and you can generate requisition within our procurement workspace, which I'll be showing you now. So let's take a dive in, okay? All right. So this is the workspace typically you would like to see. As you can tell, there are Frequent tasks on the left-hand side, expanding these tasks is purchase order contract, which we're not going to touch on today. Requisition, that's where we'll be going in. But just want to show you what this layout has to offer. So whoever's on the purchasing side of things have these pillars or these tabs they can easily access to look at any step within your progress or step within your business process here. So if you're waiting for an approval for requisition line items or purchase order, and where are deliveries of your purchase order? So we can create dashboards catering to your business needs and also give you information right at your fingertips of where everything is currently, okay? Right. Let's just jump back in now. Now you guys kind of see what the workspace looks like. Let's go into the next slide and let's go into how we create a requisition within Satinia. So to generate requisition, we obviously going to go into the requisition tab. Just want to touch up on a few points here before we go in. So there's something called the header level, which we'll be creating our request, and then we'll populate the line details after, right? We do have an item master using a reorder feature. We can raise the reorder criteria into a requisition, typically, then into a purchase order. Depending on your business needs, we can either go to the requisition route or you want to create a straight PO for that reorder of that item, okay? Right, let's move in now and let's go and create a requisition together. So I'm in my workspace, raising a requisition here for my item I want to source. Let's give it a moment here. All right, so let's go over some of the fields here that you guys see. Request department. If you have several different departments that you are allowed to source items from, you can definitely populate that here. It can be a mandatory field. In this case, we can leave it blank. Name of the new requisition, I'm going to say new item, right? Notes to buyer, you guys can then attach it here if need be. And of course, what warehouse you want this to be shipped to. This can change later if needed when you guys create the PO. But yes, we do need like a default ship to warehouse. And also, if you guys don't know the vendor who you're supplying to or sending this requisition to, that's fine. But typically, our clients does know they're sending a request to this particular vendor. So let's go ahead and select Avant Technology Solution here as our chosen vendor that we're requesting this item for, okay? So that's it there. We create the header level of our requisition. Now we're moving into the line item details, okay? All right. Before we move on to the line item details, I would like to bring up requisition line types that we have to offer within the system here. So the line types are capital equipment, contractor, description, item, services, and supplier catalog. So if I just jump back to my slide quickly, I know I'm bouncing a little bit here, but here are the different types that we have within our system that we'll go over or we'll select momentarily. So items, one is easy. Those are in your inventory master list that you select from and populate. We do also have description where, again, it's not stored in your inventory and you're raising a new one. You just know the description of the item. Say you're browsing your supplier's catalog and you're like, okay, this is the item we need. Let's go ahead and source this one. Or you're kind of requesting it. It's a generalized item description that would be applied to several vendors. You can manually enter that in, okay? Those are the two common use cases I see when we're dealing with our clients here at AbiPro, that they kind of go for one of these two. But we also have supplier catalog, capital equipment, contractor, and services here. Okay. So yeah, go ahead and pause it here if you want to look at the screen and look at the different types of requisition line types we have to offer. And you have any questions on it, please do look at it here and then save it for the end there. All right, let's move on now. Back into our example, let's populate the requisition line item, shall we? Okay. So there we have item, we have our ship to warehouse. Let's go ahead and populate our buyer. Oops, so here. I know the screen is a little small to see. So I'll expand it in a minute. Just give me a sec. So the buyer is typically who it can be the buyer who's requesting for this, depending on, again, your use case for raising this requisition. Is it the buyer that's sourcing this requisition, or is the buyer linked to the supplier warehouse that you'll be reaching out to, right? Again, it can kind of go both ways depending on your situation. Okay. So our record type again is item, and item meaning we're choosing for our inventory list. I'm going to say quantity is 1. Right? And let's source a battery today. All right. And that's it there. And let's say you want to add more lines. We can do that by entering this plus sign. And you can raise as much as you want for this request. Okay. To delete a line, you go here and you would delete line there. All right. Pretty simple, straightforward here. Let's go ahead and click save. Now our requisition line item is saved. Okay. But we're not done here yet. You can see we have our details. We have our line item. Let's go back and let's see how this looks like within the procurement workspace. Okay. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to hit refresh. So notice how they're waiting for PO. So I have to submit it for creation. So let me just go back to my requisition here. And I'm going to submit for approval. The reason why this create purchase order showed up because I have admin rights, but for your purposes that your personnel who's raising the requisition can't create a purchase order right away, they have to submit it for approval. That can be the step that we can include here. So I'm going to submit this for approval. Okay, let's go back. I may be the approver as well. So if I submit it, it will auto approve, but hopefully this will show up for you guys. And you guys can see it here. Okay, perfect, it does. So you can see there's the approval waiting for someone to review or to wait until you get back from your vendor. And let's say, okay, create sourcing request, right? That's where you kind of go and create the sourcing request. Let's just say we got our vendor, we chosen the one we wanted, and now let's create a purchase order for it. So there's multiple ways of creating it. Of course, you can go into your requisition line items, but this is the typical way of approving. You can create it from here, or you can go into the screen where I went at the header level of the requisition. Right? Where I can submit create purchase order. That's only if, again, you're the approver and the creator and you have access. But let's play the role of you don't. So I'm going to go back into my procurement workspace. Now I'm the approver. I was able to source it. Let's go ahead and now create this purchase order, shall we? There. our purchase order is created. Yes, you can see there's the supplier site and ship to warehouse kind of missing. Those information needs to be turned on so the flow can carry over. But in our example, I'm just going to populate it here so you guys know it's going to be the same vendor we're choosing from and the same warehouse. Okay. And I'll hit save. Okay, let's hop back into our segment because I think I jumped a little too far there. We moved from requisition line items, creating the purchase order, which we have done, as you know. Let's take a step back and review what is a purchase order, shall we? So what is a purchase order? So a requisition can be turned into a purchase order once approved. As you saw, we approved the requisition and turned it into a purchase order. By utilizing purchase order, you gain the ability to obtain inventory for your organization. Of course, purchase orders can be generated from various purposes. Fulfillment of sales order. Yep. So you can create a quotation to a sales order to a purchase order to sell that item that you're procuring from your vendor to your customer. Okay. Acquiring capital equipment and also drop ship in purchase order, or it's going to be internal purchase order. So with that being said, let's go back in and let's touch on drop shipping a little bit. So let's say you are ordering this item and the item is being drop shipped to a location, not to a warehouse. Okay. If that applies to you, please do get in touch with us on how that can be. For my example today, I'm just going to be shipping to a warehouse. But let's look at the line item. Okay. See method of delivery. That's where it would change if it's shipped to warehouse or it's going to be a drop ship item. Okay. Right. So now after you source your requisition, you want to enter the agreed upon price before you ship out this purchase order. Let's say 1 unit is going to cost us $100. Okay. Important information here that we need to populate is what's the supplier committed date. So I'm going to select here. Let's say it's going to be promised to be delivered by the end of the month. Okay. I'm going to hit save. And there you go. Okay. So my details of my items is now populated. Something to add here. If you like to include freight costs, taxes, or any miscellaneous costs that are associated to this purchase order, and you want to match up with your invoice, yes, we can account for those items here. And so it's be a one-to-one match when you guys do receive the invoice, okay? Or depending on your business needs, you want it at the invoice level, we can also accommodate that as well, all right? Give me a sec here, just want to review. So we also have different record types. As you may know, purchase order has the header level where you have our shipping details and indicating if it's a drop ship purchase order or internal. However, in purchase order, we have these different line items as well. Okay. So there's items, a blanket order, capital equipment, contractor, description, logistic, miscellaneous charges, as I mentioned, anything miscellaneous, on-site service, and service, right? So purchase order can be used for subcontractors as well. If you're subcontracting on a project, you send a purchase order to the subcontractor in that type of form. We do have a line item for that, okay? So more for a service. So let's go back into the software and let's look. So you can see here, this is the drop-down item where I can select my record type. And let's kind of jump into the accounting side of things on how this item would then kind of be applied to your books, right? It's a great question that I think everyone needs to know on how this is being handled within the system. So let me just go back here. I do have a different slide open up, and I'm already in my inventory list, okay? So this is the battery we're ordering, and it falls under a product group called finished goods. This was in our previous webinar where I kind of went over how product groups can be set up and how items apply to your product group, okay? You can see we have our general ledger relationship associated to this product group. It will be applied to the appropriate inventory account and cost of good account, okay? So this is like an umbrella style where this is finished goods and the battery is under that umbrella called finished goods, and it will be applied to these GL accounts, okay? All right, hopefully that paints a better picture for you guys on how the finished goods and the GL general ledger is being applied to the purchase order once this is getting generated. Let's hop back in and let's see our next step. All right. So typically, once we create the purchase order, we're moving on to receiving the orders. So depending on your business process here, if you guys don't have this implemented, this is a required step within our OPI, where you have to make sure you receive your goods. Otherwise, how would you know that items are missing, or you only reach fraction of your, I guess, order? And how would you guys handle that? Of course, depending on your situation, business case, that can be reviewed, but we handled this different ways. So let's say you have a requirement of when you receive the items, you need to inspect the items, you need to enter the serialize. This will help organizing your inventory. Will save you, I guess, provide you more information reporting side too, and also ensure the items is being received properly and tracked properly. Okay, so you're going to see that in our next step where I'll be receiving the item as the inventory warehouse personnel, and how I'll be recording the receiving end of it. Okay. Now let me jump back in. Following along with our same purchase order that we have here. Of course, I'm going to remove this line item quickly. And yes, we do have another approval process for a purchase order. So we're going to quickly submit this for approval. And typically, once you approve of this purchase order, now you're able to send it to your vendor or supplier. See here, the status has changed, which is now it's updated. And now this is in the pending state of until you receive. Okay. So since I am an admin, I do have access to the full deck of the tabs here. If you want in your business process section off each process, which is completely fine, we can go into have this as a separate, process for your warehouse guys where they have the purchase order and they need to find here to create the receipt for it, and that's their job. Okay, they entered what they need to do. Now it's passed the baton on to the accounting side, which then the accounting side would match the AP voucher to the invoice and make sure the receipt was received is correct. Okay. In our example today, I'm just going to go back. I'm going to do it right on the purchase order to show you how they're all related. And this would lead into the reporting side of things if you ever need to look into it or have quick information as, a project manager. You want to see if you've been received, is there a AP voucher against it? Where is the life cycle of this? Who approved it? So this is giving you all the information within the purchase order if you want to do that deep dive, okay? Rather than just processing. Okay, let's go in and create our receipt. Again, it's gonna look the same screen, but this time it just automatically pulls it. I hit continue. And now we can see on how many quantities we're receiving within this purchase order here. We can say we receive half a battery. If that's the case, the other half will come in a different shipment, depending again on how you guys are handling or how your vendors are shipping out your product. Okay. In my example, I'm going to say 1. I'm going to hit save. Oh. Of course, I got to make that sure that check is there. Hit save. And now, as you can see, there's additional step of me recording the serial list for this particular item when I'm receiving it, okay? So in this step here, they're requesting us to enter a serial number. So I'm going to enter the serial number as such, and this would complete my receiving process. I'm recording the quantity and the serial number on the battery or on the warranty label, depending, and this would store in our inventory as the serialized. Okay, I'm gonna hit save. And this can be applied to inspecting the product, ensuring the condition, again, what is applicable to your business process, but that's what we have to offer so far. Okay. Whoops. So let's step back. Let's go back into the purchase order, go back into the related list. And you can see that now my purchase order has been received. So that was the main understanding of receipt orders against a purchase order. Now the baton would be passed on typically to the accounting side to create the AP voucher once the invoice comes, or they can match. So they can match. Okay. So just another point to kind of touch on here is when the purchase order or receipt, a journal entry is automatically generated in our accounting or central accounting. However, it's important to note that it's only entered upon this pull SCM journal. Of course, you can create a scheduler that would pull that. It kind of ensures that once we receive the item, our inventory is going up, right? And then once we are in our payables going up. But yeah, that's what it does on the accounting side of things there. Okay. Another fun fact, receipting is not necessarily on dropship's order, where the supplier directly sends the product to your customer, okay? Just something to note down there. Okay. Okay, moving on now to our last portion of the payables. So the role of the accounts payable voucher. The AP voucher serves as a purpose of collecting details from the invoice and comparing them with the information in the purchase order and the receipt. As mentioned, it's a checkpoint to ensure what we receive is what we're going to be paying for, right? And is there any price variance in this invoice? Okay. So any supplement expenses like freight insurance mentioned on the invoice but not on the PO can be included at this stage. If the AP voucher aligns with the order receipt and is labeled as match, it moves from accounts payable as a draft. If it doesn't match, it needs to be submitted for approval. So why is this not matching our invoice? What's the difference? Who needs to approve this request? Because it gives you an understanding of are there changes, or okay, should we use this vendor again because there's different charges on our invoices every time, you know? again, it just gives you insight, and it's a checkpoint to make sure that you guys are paying for what you guys are receiving. Okay. Let's go ahead and demo that in our system here. I'm going to go back to a related tab. Again, there's that related AP voucher. I'm going to hit new. I'm going to leave this as open so you guys can see the matching process. Okay. Let's say I have the invoice in front of me. I'm going to enter it here. Invoice date would be today. And if you had your suppliers and PO agreements would be included here. So I guess the one common question is how your terms comes in, and it's generated from the supplier sites. So let me show you that quickly on our, just want to show you here. So this is our supplier site, right? This is our account. Right? So this is our vendor, type vendor. This is the supplier or the vendor we're purchasing the battery from. And let's check out the supplier site. There it is. You can see this is an active supplier site. And there is the PO agreement, or the payment agreement, net 30. This, I know it says 000 here. This is what the system generates after you create that record, but the term names can be populated on the invoice, on the PO, if need be as well. Okay. So this is how we're pulling net terms into your payable. Also, if there's different supplier sites which you have different net terms to, that's where we can populate the terms for the different supplier sites. Okay. Let's hop back in now to our AP voucher. So there's our header level created again. Now we're creating that match. So you're looking at the invoice, right? And comparing the invoice to the receipt to the PO and make sure they're all matched, right? So items is here. I'm gonna select this one. I'm going to say it's going to be from the purchase order line item. How much we received. So typically there's a checking balance. It's a little bit manual process in terms of having to look at your receipt and your invoice to make sure everything equals up the same. Let me show you if there's a difference within the price, the unit price, and let's see how that would reflect. See the unit PVV there? This indicates the difference between the price on the purchase order line and the price within the AP voucher line. Okay. As mentioned, if you're looking at the invoice, entering the invoice before it comes an actual invoice in the system, let's say the unit price was 120 versus 100 on the purchase order, right? And let's look at the record itself on the line item. You see there's an extended additional $20 on the original estimate or the original purchase order price. And yes, this plays a big role. If this is something that applies or you guys are looking for, please do reach out and let us know how we can help with this. However, I'm going to change it back now to our original unit price, $100, hit save. Let's say everything was fine. The unit price matched the purchase order price, and we're fine there. So now everything is good. I'm going to now match the record. So once I hit match, the status will update on this receipt. There you go. So the status is now matched, which help us indicate that the receipt matches the AP voucher lines. Now we can create this as a payable. So again, another checkpoint. This just serves as a checkpoint before you enter into your system. So now we can either void it, or now we can say, yes, it's good. Let's push it to our accounts payable. So that push to FFA, that's what it means. See, push AP voucher to create payable invoice. I'm gonna hit yes. It's already been exported, which works super fast. And now you can see the status is exported, and there's that payable invoice. Okay, this will hit your books now. So you see the details, right, of this payable invoice, the transaction line items. Let's take a look at that. And again, depending on your general ledger and your process, right? You can see the transaction type is a purchase order invoice, which is nice there. That ties that, you know, what type of payable this is and where it leads from. Okay, let's look at the purchase order side. Let's look at the status there. Okay. Also to mention, once the item is received, that's what triggered the status of the PO being closed. Okay. You ordered what you have, you received all the items, the purchase order now is complete. The other side of that coin is matching the AP voucher to the purchase order line item to the payable. Okay. So yeah, this is now a completed process of raising a requisition, raising it to a purchase order, creating the receipt, and now pushing it to payable, which I believe is our last slide, right? So you see how we have these indication. We did the match. After the match, we push it to FFA. It's been exported and created the payable invoice. Right. Just gonna, if you do have questions, please do reach out to us. Either email us or give us a call. Give us a call. Follow us on social media. And if you want to talk more one-to-one about the SCM requisition to PO process, please do reach out to us. Again, thank you for your time in attending today's webinar. I wish you guys a wonderful day and hope you guys do reach out to us. Thank you. Take care now. Bye-bye.